that will maybe serve to solve a problem or just to scratch an itch or of something you're particularly interested in. And I think we have, given the group size, I think we'll have plenty of time to discuss these things. But yeah, let's see. I guess I can go ahead and get us started. My name is Joseph Battistella. I am currently involved with Pine Hill Farm, which is a garden project in Spring Lake neighborhood. It's on land that I lease from a friend who purchased the property a few years ago. And they were pretty lucky in that this property was about 7 acres and had, you know, maybe a half acre to a full acre of sort of flat ground that was easy to grow on. And so we've kind of been getting that to the point to where we can, you know, produce crops on there. Something that is unique about this garden project, you know, from a sort of a technical perspective, is that it's no-till, and it's never been tilled. We started the project with sort of the intent to kind of keep the soil that was there intact, because the soil was in pretty good shape, and to make it easy. We didn't really want to have to use rototillers and stuff like that. We didn't have them and we didn't want to purchase them. And so far it's worked out pretty well. And then something that we're planning to sort of integrate into the garden project in the future is the use of cover crops grown and then used as mulch, pushed over and covered with a silage tarp in order to kill. And then we're hoping we can plant directly into those, into that mulch, and that it will help with moisture retention, because we're on city water, so water is pretty expensive. And I think that if we, yeah, we're really trying to do as little watering as possible. It really adds up. So we're kind of, you know, along with, you know, the building of organic matter that also occurs with cover cropping is sort of something that we're hoping will help a lot with that too in the long run, but also just covering the soil up and preventing as much transpiration from the soil. So yeah. And with that, I will pass it to Franny.
Hey, my name is Franny Coe. I have a farm, we call it Echo Ridge Farm here in DeKalb County. And we're not really full-time farmers, but as I said just a few minutes ago, I got a little goat today between sessions, and our neighbor brought him over to use as a stud. So we're going to try to build our goat farm, our goats herd up. But basically I'm a family physician, and I try to teach prevention. And we're here on our farm. Eventually we're working towards having a center for reversing dementia. And we're going to do it through food farming and medicine. So we live in tiny houses. We're off the grid. We have solar panels, and the soil here probably has been farmed for 100 years or more. So we're really trying to build it up with farm animals, as well as things like biochar and, you know, a variety of things to improve the soil. So we've done cover crops and different things. So I was a city girl, so I'm just learning as I go. We've been here, gosh, I bought it in 2006. So 15 years this year is when I bought the property. So but I literally knew nothing or very little. All I did is ever garden. So my goal right now is to learn to raise animals and feed my kids, put meat in their freezer, and then eventually we'll, get bigger than that. I have loved everything that Camp McDowell does, and we're on the other side of the state, so they have their farm there for kids to come to before COVID, and that's kind of a goal that I would like to have here. But it wouldn't be they wouldn't stay overnight. They would probably just come for the day and do science projects and things like that here on our farm. So I'm already working with some of the elderly, working on reversing dementia. I've been able to do it in my own dad and a couple other community members. So we hope to put in some more tiny houses for people and families to come for either weekends or weeks, or we're not sure yet, but have classes and things like that here. So, and show them how to have small raised beds and different things that can help them be healthier for the long run. So I know I'm already old. I'm 61. But my great grandmother lived till she was 104. So I'm hoping I do. So I have 40 more years to work. So my goal is just to keep going and not retire for a very long time. And so I have a lot of energy so far, and I'm going to try to keep doing that. So somebody else may want to talk about what they're doing.
Thank you, Franny. Do you want to popcorn it to someone else?
How do I do that? Just
you can just
mention somebody's name.
Mm-hmm.
I see Mona.
I wish I had something cool to contribute along farm lines, but I am mostly here to make sure the Zoom doesn't fall apart.
How about Kayla? You want to share where you are in your world?
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, hi, I'm Kayla Rowling. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in Montgomery, Alabama, and I work for the city of Montgomery as an urban farmer. And so I encourage other people, I bring that up simply to say, I want farmers to be well compensated. And while, working for a city parks department is not a huge level of compensation, it's good for being a farmer. So please talk to your localities too about maybe how that your parks can support your work that you do. But back to the topic, sorry, I might digress on that. The most critical thing about the site I farm on is we have arsenic contamination in our soil. So everything has to be grown in raised beds. And then the two sort of things we're looking for, whatever the second part of the question was, is that we need more compost is one of our challenges. So both through cover cropping and trying to create compost in place, as well as expanding our on-farm compost operations. So I think that's the main thing in terms of growing more vegetables. We have a finite amount of soil, so all the soil we have to grow food in, we have to import from somewhere else. So we have to figure out how to manage it and keep growing food. And I think that's it. Who else would like to speak?
I'll go. Hi everyone. Let me turn on my video. First off, thank you for everyone for sharing. And I feel like I did a small mini intro in the chat, but my name is Jewel. A friend of mine let me know that these Zooms were happening, and we are part of a book club where we just do revolutionary readings, but we want to start putting into practice like the theory that we are learning. And one of those things is definitely about food justice. I live in New Orleans, and Cancer Alley is a very real thing. And it's from the lead in the soil to the water, in the rusted pipes, to also living in a place whose land is going away, disappearing because of rising seawater levels. So we want to start figuring out like how to engage community in an accessible way amongst like other people who are doing the same work with like community gardens, but that don't get stolen away from people by the city, or like guerrilla gardening, or just like we're theorizing plans right now. So I'm definitely at like a surface level space, but really excited to learn from all of y'all the best way to like certain best practices in regards to growing produce and food. So thank y'all for creating this space. Oh, popcorn to whoever wants to go.
Thanks so much, Jewel. I'll just pop in here while Joseph is getting back on the call. I'm a farmer support coordinator with ASAN. I used to grow veggies in the city, and it's been a couple years since I've done that. So I don't have too much to share in that regard right now, but something that was on my mind when I was pretty much the land that you could farm on in Nashville in the city, which is where I was farming, was floodplain. We'd get land from either the water department or the parks department that was all bought up after the floods, the 2012 floods in Nashville. And so a lot of the problems that I was thinking around where it was about hardscaping to be able to make things more flood proof and not just have all the soil that we've been building wash away. Because it was not like Indus River Valley, like, you know, like fertile, like it was like trash, like river of trash. So so yeah, that was the things that I was thinking on. So I'll just throw that in there. And yeah, while Joseph is hopping back on, curious what you've got planned for next year that you're excited about. And it could be like a particular variety, or it could be a vegetable, or it could be like a particular expansion project that you're doing. Curious what y'all have in your mind's eye.
Welcome back, Joseph.
Hey, Joseph. I just got us started on the question of what are you looking forward to next year? Like, is it a particular variety or particular project that you've got in mind?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Tech stuff is so stressful. I'm glad that you're back. That was really
very unexpected. But swift return.
Yeah, that was a swift return.
Yeah, so the second question, I think I kind of covered it in my first chat about it, but it was actually it sounded like something that similar to what Kaylor is dealing with soil and cover cropping and ways to kind of like add compost or organic matter to the soil without spending a ton of money on having something driven in from across the state. And luckily, I think our access to compost will be a little bit on the up and up in the coming years, but for now we kind of rely on picking up leaves off the side of the road in the neighborhoods and using cover crops. But I'm really hoping that we can keep our soil covered at the garden project just to retain moisture and to help continue to feed the soil and maybe reduce our need for fertilizers and amendments. And it looks a lot nicer and it feels better to have the soil covered. So it looks like we have somebody, Jemaya just joined us.
Yeah, hey, Guru. Good to see you. Would you mind introducing yourself? Hey.
Hey.
Oh, you're on mute, Guru.
Unmute. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Charlotte. Sorry, joined late. I took a schedule to work until 3 o'clock, and I am not out yet. I'm Guru, and I'm a small farmer, just beginning, and I grow mostly Indian vegetables. My farm is at Somerville, Alabama, about 40 minutes from Huntsville. What else I need to tell?
We did have some prompt questions that you maybe could answer. The first one being, what is something about your farm or garden project that makes it unique, or something that kind of makes it maybe stand out from other farms or garden projects, or that is sort of crucial to the existence of it?
Superfoods. I grow mostly superfoods, greens like moringa and amaranth, and most of the Indian vegetables, I would say.
Very cool.
So
And
it's not
what-
available in the market. I'm right now working in a grocery store, Indian grocery store, and I don't see those green vegetables here. So that's what I'm thinking is not as a market. So if my community comes to know that I have this vegetable, they will call me and to get those vegetables.
Very cool. And the next question was, what is something that you are looking forward to doing maybe in this next year with your farm in terms of production methods or new varieties or anything like that is kind of like, what direction do you want to go?
Good question. I'm trying to acquire more of the superfood varieties, some familiar, some are not familiar. I want to try a different, how do you say that? To get the interest of different internationals and different market. I'm trying to access variety of market. Yeah. So say I have in our Indian vegetables, I have some friends who are Africans. They are interested in certain type of vegetables, which is not available in the market. There are some Asians. They want a certain other kind of vegetables, which is not again in the market, in a big store market. So I'm trying to get seed materials and try to grow them in my environment, in my farm.
Very cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. I'd like to hear more about those varieties, especially the ones that might work in our
yes
hot
exactly
climate here.
that works. That's
Yeah,
what I need
that
to find out if it works in my place,
Yeah.
People ask for sweet potatoes, but my farm has clay soil. So what I do is I still planted sweet potatoes, but the Asians like the leaves, sweet potato tops. So those people who are interested in the leaves, I can still produce the leaves. I may not get giant tubers, but I still be able to produce a lot of leaves, and it's a good ground cover. So 2-in-1.
Yeah, they're really delicious and nutritious too.
Yeah, and I have a lot of banana plants, plenty. I may not get banana fruits, but the leaves, they make sustainable plates. Instead of paper plates, I can use banana leaves, and people can use it to cook food. Also, they can wrap it.
Cool. That's super interesting. Does anyone else have like I think some people kind of touched on the sort of forward-looking question about what is it that you're looking forward to in the coming year about implementing on your farm. I don't know if anybody else wants to touch on that before we move forward. If not, also, if anybody has any like particular questions or directions that they would like to take the conversation, it sounds like there is some common threads here, but give you all an opportunity just to maybe bring up any specific topics.
I have a specific question for Guru, actually, which is, how long have you been growing chayote con espina?
Chayote, this is my first year.
How did
It was an experiment to see how it behaves, because I have always liked and tasted, eaten chayote, but never seen a plant before. So I wanted to see how to multiply. So now I learned this year. I learned how its behavior and how it grows, and when to plant it. So next year I'll plan accordingly and grow this. I want to grow something that's not spiny. Spiny ones are more popular with the Hispanic community. And I think our Asian and Indian communities, they like the non-spiny, smooth kind. So I need access for those seeds, or sprout it myself. You know, you can buy the fruit, vegetable from the market, the matured ones, and you can sprout it yourself.
it's really neat to see that you're growing it up there too.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I have like 50, 60 species spread out there. I had to experiment. I had to study the farmland. It's a borrowed piece of land. So I need to know what grows, what does well, perform well. Even so, like it's only 1/8 of an acre. But so much variation. Some of them have water logging. Some of them have some places it stays dry. Some places it's very rich because we had some farm animals a few years ago. They had cows and goats. So it depends upon the area within the. I have different the different soil type in the same land. So now I know where to plant the chayote, where to put the sweet potatoes, where to put my bananas. And have you ever heard of Egyptian spinach?
I have.
Egyptian spinach, yeah.
Yeah.
You probably know already what is jute. You know what is jute? Jute is a fiber crop.
Fiber, like the rope. Or
yeah, jute rope. Yeah.
Or,
if you go into the grocery stores, I don't know if I have a bag here, but the basmati rice usually comes in a jute bag. The fashion industry, some of the garments are made of jute, shoes, sandals. So that leaf, I know jute as only a fiber crop. When I came here, when I spoke to some of my friends here from the Mediterranean area, they said they like the leaves. Even in Asia and the Philippines, they love the leaves. They call it that's Egyptian spinach. So that's a new crop I just found. Yesterday I went to the farm and collected some seeds. So hoping to grow more next year.
Very cool.
So it's not commonly found in the market. I went to Asian market and grocery stores. Those green vegetables are not common because they don't, it doesn't keep well in the fridge for long. we need it fresh. Otherwise, we had to freeze it, which takes more resources. You know, I need a freezer, etc.
You mentioned that you grow moringa.
Yes, moringa.
Yeah, I actually experimented with some of that last year after getting some of the seeds, and we grew it kind of densely on beds in hopes that we could get like tender young leaves to use in salad.
I might have missed where are you located?
That was in Talladega County, so near, I guess it would be south of Birmingham.
South of Birmingham.
That's where we were. That's where I was growing at the time. But the moringa is a really nice flavor.
Yeah,
but I did.
South of Birmingham or up to Montgomery, you might be lucky to get fruits. Here in northern Alabama, it flowers, but it doesn't fruit because this season is getting cold by the time it sets fruit.
Do you eat the leaves, or do you grow it for the leaves or for the fruit mainly?
Moringa is a superfood. It's a miracle plant. From the tip of the leaf to the tip of the root, it's medicinal. So we eat leaves mostly, and the fruits are delicious too. When you include the fruit in any vegetable dish, say you're making a vegetable soup, you put a few pieces of the moringa pods, it'll taste like chicken.
Very cool.
And
yeah, we were, so when the leaves were really young and the plants were small, they were pretty sweet. But then as the season progressed, they became like kind of spicy, the leaf.
Yes.
I don't know
if it has too much water, the pungency might be less. If it has just just enough water, because it's usually a drought tolerant crop. If it just gets right enough water, it will be pungent. Even if the tender leaves will be pungent. It will be strong. Nice and strong.
Yeah.
If you have a dry season, this is a wet season. This summer we had periodic rain, so I didn't get any strong pungent leaves this time. But if you're growing it indoor somewhere in a greenhouse where you can control how much water it gets, you would get stronger taste. Have you cooked it, or do you just juice it or dry it? How did you take it?
I just ate it like in salads.
Oh, salad is a good idea too.
Yeah.
We usually in India we just saute the leaves and cook it with some shredded coconut, fresh shredded coconut. In the Philippines, they make a clear soup, clear water soup with the fish. They add it to any meat, any meat soup. They add some moringa leaves to it. Yeah.
The fruit is high in protein, right? The
leaf,
seeds.
the leaf itself. What I heard is a pound of moringa leaves has more protein than a pound of red meat. It's just what I heard, but it's highly nutritious. For a pound, you get more than protein. It's almost a complete food. You get all the nutrients you need for your sustenance. When I went to school, one of my professors, he told us he used to work in Africa, in one of the West African countries. They introduced moringa as a supplement to turn around the malnutrition in the community. In 1 year, they turn it around. So it was a miracle crop. I like to see more moringa products in shelves in, at least in Alabama.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I had a question for Kaylor. You mentioned that you were having trouble accessing compost. Is that something that you're looking for as a growing medium for the raised beds, or for to use as like a fertilizer or regular amendment? And also, you know, seeing as you do have to grow in raised beds, where do you get your soil medium that you grow in for the raised beds? And have you found that any one type of mix works better than another, or, you know, what are the components of that?
If I start to ramble, cut me off. I had surgery earlier this week, and so I'm just saying that because I don't want to get lost in pain medication, but I'll try to answer your questions.
Go for it.
Just know that I've taken some pain medication today. So compost for us is a soil amendment. We installed about 500 10-gallon pots for a new garden this year, and we purchased soil for that. And we really only have two sources. There are two like materials companies, you know, the people who sell you gravel or sand, or, you know, they mix mostly sand and mushroom compost and then resell that as a soil mix. So that because we're using so much quantity, that's basically the only economical, like we can't buy it by the bag, right? If you're filling up a 10-gallon pot over and over again. So we buy this by the cubic yard, and then we'll also buy mushroom compost separately. And honestly, the quality is very hit or miss. We want to make more compost because as we refill these pots over time to continue growing vegetables in the new garden, you know, the compost is the thing that the microorganisms eat. So, you know, it kind of evaporates and we need to add it. So we also need it to hold water in the soil because the soil that we purchase is mostly sand. And so I think that's mainly that's mainly the uses in the larger beds where we have beds that are 24 feet by about 3.5 feet. That's where we're trying to do more of the composting in place with cover crops, and using that as soil amendments. And I would also say, I think for us as farmers too, you know, everybody's talking about inflation. And in the past year, as I've bought compost to use in the garden, it's gone from $65 a cubic yard to $90 a cubic yard, which has also put us, and that's just the compost, in a place where we're thinking like, well, if we need, you know, 10 cubic yards of this, I don't know how much we actually need a year. We really maybe need to find a way to make more of it ourselves. I would say the downside to some of the compost we've made ourselves and our learning curve around making our own compost, which is maybe like a cautionary tale, is that we have chickens and ducks. And so we use a lot of chicken litter in our compost that we produce so that we're not generating more waste. But that will build up in your soil. The potassium in that will build up, no, the phosphorus, sorry. The phosphorus is going to build up in your soil over time. So if you're making compost with animal inputs, it's just something to keep in mind. So another reason we cover crop in our large raised beds is those have been there the longest and have a high level of phosphorus. And so we're trying to, you know, use nitrogen fixing plants as our soil amendments there. And I'll stop now. So
you said that you use like a mushroom compost and sand mixture in the pots. It seems like when you don't have like as much of a mineral component in your soil mix, then you can be sort of more vulnerable to, you know, any imbalance or whatever in the compost itself that you're getting. Has that been a problem for you, or have you been able to produce crops pretty well in that product.
The area that we lovingly called the pot garden has been a learning curve for us. So I would definitely say we have added like organic amendments. So like something real basic, kind of balanced organic mineral amendment fertilizer along with the compost and the sand. And just I think probably that is like every 2 to 3 weeks.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I want to open it up for anybody else who has any questions or any topics they want to bring up.
I have a topic going from what Kaylor was saying about inflation, cost of inputs going up, seeds being like less accessible, just how people are navigating that, and any tips people have found in making it work or alternative methods.
Yeah, it seems I kind of wonder if the inflation from things like compost and whatnot, if that's coming from like oil prices and the price to like transport things. And so for me, when I think about like inflation and being vulnerable to rising energy costs and stuff like that in the future, it makes me sort of lean towards being more self-sufficient and being able to kind of like look at my immediate area around me and what sort of what can I, or how can I like close the cycle there and bring in like nutrients from or how can I sort of plug the farm into the cycle that's happening around it. And where I am, we're lucky in that we're in a neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors like bag their leaves up and put them on the side of the road. And so we use that for mulch and compost. And we have a field that is sort of low, and we don't till it, and we don't really plan on tilling it or anything like that. So we will sometimes collect grass and things like that to use as mulch from there, in hopes that we're cycling some nutrients back into the soil. It's not perfect, but if we do have to bring in inputs, I would rather them be like a 50-pound bag or something, or a 10-pound bag of something, rather than an 18-wheeler load of compost that's going to cost a lot of that cost is just in the fuel it takes to get it there, which is much more, it's kind of uncertain as to what, the cost of doing that will be in the future, just because it's so reliant on, our ability to access fossil fuels and process them into something that can go into a combustion engine to bring the huge load of compost to wherever we're going. But that's sort of a reality that we live in currently, so it's kind of it's not very practical to escape that completely, but maybe slowing down a little bit and just kind of seeing where these what resources are around me and how we can use those.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've been farming, but when I was, leaf bags was definitely where it's at, like going and picking up leaf bags. And then also there is the police horse stables were sort of near where I farmed. And so then you could go get well rotted horse manure. And so I would use that. And that was free. So anywho, I was thinking too about yesterday, Mark Haynes had a talk about mushrooms, and he was talking about how he keeps a lookout for certain types of lumber, of wood that's on the side of the street, like magnolia apparently will just fruit one. I think it was oyster mushrooms. Typically they'll have wild oyster mushrooms that'll just come off of those. And so that like attunement and slowing down being another like a key piece of cutting down on input costs and keeping things local. Yeah, and pecan wood is what, yeah, Sophie said, yeah. I think tulip poplar was the other one too. I'm also wondering, Shmuel, are you able to introduce yourself now? You said you had headphones before. Sorry to interrupt, Joseph, but I was realizing. If not, that's okay too. Okay.
I see. We'll ask a question here about methods of vertical farming and greenhouses for increasing yields of agricultural production. I don't know if anybody else has any experience with vertical farming. I've done some production in mainly unheated greenhouse structures, and I think they're pretty awesome. They work well year round for growing, and actually, you know, in the summertime, when you would think it would just be too hot to produce anything in a greenhouse, you know, you can put shade cloth on a greenhouse and produce stuff like lettuce and you know, crops that you would think would maybe just grow in cooler weather, but also tomatoes and peppers and ginger and all that stuff kind of appreciates a little shield from the UV rays in the summertime. And then through the wintertime, you know, you can grow a lot of stuff in an unheated greenhouse, which I think is awesome, because I would much prefer to produce stuff in the cooler months than in August, when it's, you know, so hot that a lot of things don't really want to grow. But I would say a greenhouse is a great way to sort of, you know, be able to produce maybe 2 acres worth of stuff on, you know, on 3/4 of an acre or something like that. It's kind of like having more land, because you can grow stuff more of the year, and the produce is often higher quality, just because you can kind of you can sort of moderate the amount of moisture it's getting, and you know, if you need to, you can put shade cloth on there. I would say the one downside is that you do have to water it. You know, often, like every day, you have to check on it. You have to ventilate it. Even if it's, you know, 30 degrees outside, if it's closed up and the sun's out, it could get, you know, 80, 90 degrees inside of an unheated greenhouse. So you have to, it takes a lot more management. But if you're going to be there, you know, doing things anyway, and you want to produce more of the year, I think it's a really good option. And, you know, if you want to produce your own starts and things like that too, I think it's crucial. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to that, or if that answered the question. Guru, do you grow anything in greenhouses, or are you mainly outside with all the crops that you're growing?
So far only outside. I wish I have access to some greenhouses so I can extend some of my crops like moringa and some greens. I would like to grow through the winter. But if you know anybody who has a greenhouse locally, they can borrow, let me know. And by the way, Joseph, I'll take this chance to show you. I'm working in an Indian grocery store.
Yeah.
That's moringa fruit.
Oh,
It's frozen. I don't know if you can see
wow.
it. Is it showing opposite or what? How does the screen?
I can see it.
Yeah,
Is it showing the right side up?
yeah, it says drumstick.
Okay, that's good. If you can read, that's awesome.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that that's what the fruit looked like. I was thinking
it's a cut
seed
tree.
pot.
It's
a what?
It's cut to this
Oh,
size,
yeah.
but the fruit is at least 1-2 feet long. Depends on the variety. It'll go 2 feet
Wow.
long. Pods.
Wow.
So,
And-
Guru, are you growing it as an annual then, since you don't have high tunnels? Do you restart it every year?
Yes, it's yes. I'm growing it, starting it every year. That's why I wanted a greenhouse. If I had a greenhouse, I could save seedlings. I could save the plants, cuttings, and I'll save about 3-4 months in the spring.
I have some friends that grew some last year in a pot, and they thought that it died, I think, but it came back from the roots.
It'll come back. It depends on where they kept it. If they kept it inside the garage or somewhere,
Yeah, it was outside, but I think it was a little, it was closer to Birmingham, so we might. And last year we didn't, it wasn't an extreme winter or anything down here, so I think it may have just barely skirted by.
yeah. One of my friends, Madison here, Madison, Alabama, she got moringa tree on a pot. In a pot, it's about 8 years old, 8-10 years old.
Wow.
So they keep it in the garage in the winter and bring it back outside in the summer, spring.
Is she able to get fruit? Does it fruit?
She got fruits.
Yeah, very cool.
So I wish I have a high tunnel.
There is a grant through NRCS that you can apply for, and they do it's for a high tunnel, and I know a number of people who've done it. I've done it before, and it's a pretty good way to get a greenhouse for free. I mean, it might cost you, I think the amount that they provide can change from year to year. But generally, it's enough to get a, 24 by 72 foot high tunnel.
Do I need to have own property? Because the farm is right now on a borrowed piece of land, which keeps me from installing anything permanent or.
Yeah, I think you might be able to get one if you have a lease on the land. But I think the other requirements would be a tax ID number for the farm, and that maybe you might have to have produced a certain dollar amount of produce. It's not very much, but I believe the last time I applied for that, I think it was sort of criteria, but that could have changed.
I'm looking around for some farmers or farmers or growers around, if they have a greenhouse or a tunnel house, we could work together and,
Kaylor, are you producing a lot outdoors through the winter?
Yes, we are warm enough in Montgomery that pretty much everything but chard does well. So our lows are gonna hit like 20 degrees for a few days, and we cover everything with row cover. So we're growing right now kohlrabi, kale, collards, cauliflower, mustard, bok choy, radish, just sort of an assortment of winter things. And it all does really well in Montgomery in our climate.
Very cool. Do you have any issues with bolting in spring with some of the maybe like if you planted something in November and it's not ready until mid to late February to harvest? Do you have issues with bolting around that time, or do you usually like kind of time? Is there a certain way you like time the plantings to where some of those winter annuals will avoid bolting before you can get a good harvest?
I wish I could say good at timing things.
What was that?
I'm just gonna leave it at that. I said I wish I could say I was good at timing things. There are plants that I find fall and winter is more challenging for me because the heat and the dryness that we have.
Totally.
It's hot and dry here until the end of October usually. So the window of time for establishing the plants that you want to harvest later.
Yeah.
I don't always I don't always get the timing right.
Yeah. When do you start planting for the spring?
First thing I'll usually plant is like sugar snap peas and English peas at the end of January. That's not overwintered.
Gotcha. Any other topics or questions anybody wants to bring up?
Is anybody here a flower farmer? Do you produce flowers?
I don't. I've produced some flowers, just kind of like your basic sunflower, zinnia, and I've worked on farms that grow flowers, but I don't have a deep knowledge of flower production, that's for sure.
I'm interested in marigold flowers.
Marigolds?
Mm-hmm.
For
religious purpose,
like Spanish type stuff, or for
religious,
oh, okay.
decoration purpose.
Mm-hmm. I think they grow pretty well here.
I think Hepzibah has some.
I spoke to her. They didn't have what I wanted, but I'm looking for something bulk.
Well, if you're looking for a specific variety, maybe you can share it and then we can keep our ear to the ground.
I will keep you posted on that, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Because right now we get flowers from up north,
Yeah.
and if I have a source nearby, then for me it's the limitation of the land. I don't have that much of land or machinery to produce 1/8 of an acre. I could produce for a few families, but not supply on a regular basis.
Right.
So if I have a local access, it'll be great.
I'll send you another name too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you might want to talk with Kirk, who you'll remember from the Access to Capital session.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you his contact information.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
What else did I miss?
In terms of the other sessions or in terms of
No, this session. I know I missed one this morning.
oh, the record keeping one was yeah, just
I
this one.
wanted to, but
Well, don't worry, there's going to be a recording, so you'll be able to listen to it later.
I'll check it.
Yeah, it was really good. Well, Joseph, if we're feeling like there aren't so many more questions and people are feeling full and good, then we can go ahead and close out. It's up to your discretion. Do you have any other questions you want to pose to the group?
I don't have any other questions. If anybody else does, give them a last chance to bring something up, but if not, we could go ahead and close it out, Charlotte.
Sounds good. Speak now or forever hold your field peas. I've been wanting to say that this whole time. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close us out at that. Well, great. So thank you all for coming. I just want to plug ASAN membership. And if you want to share any impactful things or things that you're taking away, knowledge that you learned during the session, you can drop it in the chat so that people can reflect back. Maybe if they joined a little bit later, then they can see those reflections. This year, ASAN has deepened our commitment to being a values-driven, farmer-centric, member-led grassroots network. We're strengthening our collective muscles to address the most pressing challenges farmers and aspiring farmers are facing: access to capital, access to land, environmental threats, and so many more. To do this work, we've been undergoing a membership scale-up to build the more just and resilient food system we desperately need, and which our children's children deserve. We need non-farmers and farmers to link arms together to demand and create change. And y'all, we've had 50 new members sign up in the last 3 months. So it's pretty exciting to see how our membership is growing. So be sure to click on that link that Sophie shared. If you're not a member, membership starts at $1, goes to $1 million, whatever you desire, it's sliding scale. So check it out. And there's the place for you in this movement. So encourage you to click on that link, and so glad you could all join today.